It was just after midnight when the knock came. Not a polite rap, but a frantic, desperate pounding that shook the entire door frame. My heart leaped into my throat. Who would be here at this hour? My first thought was that something terrible had happened. I crept to the peephole, my hands trembling, and peered out into the dimly lit hallway. The face I saw staring back was the last one I ever expected to see. It was my father. My dad and I hadn't spoken in nearly 5 years. Our last conversation had been a fiery argument, a culmination of years of misunderstandings and unspoken resentments. It ended with him storming out, shouting that he was done with me. And he had kept his word. 5 years of silence. 5 years of birthdays, holidays, and life milestones that passed without a single call or text. To be honest, a part of me had made peace with it. I had built a new life, a new family of friends, and I had learned to live with the quiet ache of his absence. But here he was, on my doorstep in the middle of the night, looking broken. His hair was disheveled, his eyes were red-rimmed and hollow, and his clothes were rumpled, as if he'd been sleeping in them. He looked older, so much older than I remembered. The anger and pride that had always defined him were gone, replaced by a raw, terrifying vulnerability. I hesitated for a moment, a war of emotions raging inside me. Anger, hurt, confusion, but also a flicker of something else. Concern. I took a deep breath and unlocked the door. He didn't say a word at first. He just stumbled past me into the living room and collapsed onto the sofa, burying his face in his hands. The sound that escaped him wasn't a cry, but a ragged, choked sob that seemed to be torn from the very depths of his soul. I stood there, frozen, not knowing what to do or say. What do you say to the ghost who has come back to haunt you? Finally, I found my voice. Dad? What is it? What's wrong? He looked up, and the despair in his eyes was like a physical blow. She's gone, he whispered, his voice cracking. Your mother, she's gone. My world tilted on its axis. My parents had been divorced for over a decade, and my mom had remarried and moved to another state. But they had been high school sweethearts. Their story was the stuff of legends in our family, a tumultuous, passionate, and ultimately heartbreaking romance that had shaped both of their lives and mine. Even after the divorce, I knew my dad had never really let her go. What do you mean? Gone? I asked, my own voice barely a whisper. She passed away, he said, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence, a heart attack. It was sudden. Her husband called me an hour ago. The news hit me like a tidal wave, knocking the air from my lungs. My mom gone. It didn't feel real. I had just talked to her last week. We were planning for me to visit in the spring. How could she just be gone? But as the shock began to recede, a more immediate reality set in. My father was here, in my apartment, shattered. And in that moment, all the anger, all the hurt, all the years of silence just evaporated. It didn't matter anymore. None of it did. All I saw was a man who had lost the love of his life, a man who was utterly and completely alone. And in his moment of absolute desperation, the only person he could think to turn to was me. The daughter he had pushed away. I crossed the room and sat down beside him on the sofa. I didn't say anything. I just put my arm around his trembling shoulders. He leaned into me, his body racked with sobs. And for the first time since I was a little girl, my father let me comfort him. We sat like that for what felt like hours, the silence of the night punctuated only by his grieving. He started talking, slowly at first, then in a flood of memories and regrets. He talked about how he met my mom, about their first date, about the day I was born. He talked about their fights, the stubborn pride that kept them apart, and the profound, unending love that had connected them even after they were no longer together. He told me about the last 5 years. He confessed how lonely he had been, how much he had missed me. He admitted that his pride had been a prison of his own making. Every holiday, every birthday, he said, his voice thick with emotion, I'd pick up the phone to call you. My thumb would hover over your name. But I couldn't do it. I was too ashamed. Too stubborn. Listening to him, I realized something profound. All these years, I had seen our estrangement as his rejection of me. I had carried that hurt like a shield. But it was never just about me. It was about his own pain, his own inability to deal with loss and regret. He hadn't pushed me away because he didn't love me. He had pushed me away because he didn't know how to love himself. That night was the longest of my life. We talked until the first light of dawn crept through the windows, painting the room in soft shades of gray and pink. We cried together. We shared memories of my mother, laughing through our tears at some of the funny stories. We didn't fix everything. The years of hurt couldn't be erased in a single night. But we laid down our weapons. We chose to tear down the wall that had stood between us for so long. When he finally left the next morning, he looked like a different person. The despair was still there, of course, but it was tempered with something new. A glimmer of hope. He hugged me at the door, a real, heartfelt hug that squeezed the air out of me. Thank you, he whispered, for opening the door. You're my dad, I said, my own voice choked with tears. I'll always open the door. The death of my mother was a devastating tragedy, and the grief is something I will carry with me forever. But her passing brought an unexpected gift. It brought my father back to me. That midnight knock didn't just break the silence. It broke a cycle of pain and pride that had held our family captive for years. It taught me that love is more resilient than pride, and that forgiveness is a door that can always be opened, even in the darkest of nights. It showed me that sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones who are hurting the most, and that true strength lies not in building walls, but in having the courage to tear them down. Our relationship isn't perfect now. We're still learning how to talk to each other, how to navigate the years of distance. There are still awkward silences and moments of uncertainty. But we're trying. We talk on the phone every week. I'm helping him with the funeral arrangements. We are, for the first time in a very long time, a father and a daughter again. That night changed everything. It was a painful, heart-wrenching, and unbelievably beautiful beginning to a new chapter. It was the night my father came home. If you're going through a difficult time, please remember you're not alone. There are resources available, and talking to someone can make all the difference. Reach out, open the door, and let the healing begin. Thank you for listening to my story. Please subscribe for more true stories about life and connection.